Hey guys, I'm Chris King, head of Battery Staple Games, creators of 20XX and publishers of Jamestown Plus.
Chris, talk a little about the history of your studio. It's an interesting history.
Yeah, it is a bit of an interesting history. I worked as a programmer for several years in cybersecurity and in telecom after college. Just sort of places where they were wonderful work, great people, but not missions I was super passionate about. And when I finally made it to my mid-20s with some amount of money for the first time in my life, and no spouse or children or anything who'd be super upset if I blew all of that money, I said, this is like the only time in my life that I could realistically try and be a game developer and take a shot at it. And I've always loved Mega Man, I've always loved Mega Man X, I've always wanted so much more of it. And at the time, Capcom just wasn't doing it. So I decided to make a thing that was always more Mega Man X, and 20XX was born.
So talk a little about how that project allowed you to open the doors for your publishing that you're getting into.
Oh, it's been a wonderful experience. So when we finished 20XX on PC, we basically decided immediately, we were successful enough that we decided, okay, this has got to come to consoles, got to happen. And so we ended up working with Tim Ambrogi, the programmer from Final Form Games, original developers of Jamestown, on some of our port stuff. And so earlier this year, they realized that they had gotten to a point with Jamestown Plus where they just needed slightly more resources to get across the finish line. They needed a little bit more work, a little bit more time, but they have full-time jobs themselves and children and wives and such like that, and just didn't quite have the time. So they came to me earlier this year and they said, would you be willing to come on and help us finish Jamestown Plus? And Jamestown, when it came out, was one of the first games I played as sort of the new indie generation, right? It was one of the games that really inspired me to try and do this in the first place. And so when they asked me if I would come on and help them finish it, like, how could I possibly say no? And so that's how we got our start.
So talk about what Jamestown Plus is exactly.
So Jamestown Plus is the correct, perfect, wonderful version of the original Jamestown, released in 2011. It's a co-op shoot 'em up for 1 to 4 people set on 17th century colonial Mars. It's an entirely accurate retelling of the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. It's very accurate. It's perfectly spot on. So a thing that really sets apart, so Jamestown is a shoot 'em up in that genre of you have a ship and there's bullets everywhere, or sort of everywhere, depending on the difficulty level, and it's your job to survive. One of the things that really, or the thing that really sets Jamestown apart, other than its wonderful theming and story and music, is the game's approachability. So a lot of shoot 'em ups are very made for genre diehards, right? They're made for big fans, people who want to play that kind of crazy, bullet hell everywhere, split-second, tiny frame dodging sorts of stuff. Those games are incredible, and I love them, but they're not entirely welcoming to newcomers of the genre. One of the things that really sets Jamestown Plus apart is that any group of 1 to 4 people can jump in and have a blast, no matter what their skill level is. There's a huge, wide variety of difficulty scalings in the game, so that a couple of people or one person who've never played a shoot 'em up before have a really soft, nice entry point to that genre, and then if they like it, they can practice and become better and knock up the difficulty a bit, and then adjust themselves to the genre and eventually advance to the higher difficulties. And anybody can jump in and play, and the co-op systems are basically designed so that you're always happy to have a friend along. You know, no matter what the disparity in your skill level might be, it's always better with a friend.
As a game dev, does that help you on the publishing side, do you think?
Oh yeah, the fact that I've done the whole development stuff before. You know, we did so much of the work on 20XX that I'm already very familiar with a lot of the platform sides of things. I'm very familiar with the porting process and what it takes to get a game to run on different platforms. You know, I'm very comfortable with how all of that stuff works. So it's really just, you know, experience makes you better at everything, right?
So when does Jamestown Plus come out, and what platforms will it be on?
Fall of this year on PC and Switch. So the game is already out on PS4. But our big thrust right now is Switch, PC, fall of this year. We'll have a release date announcement in the next couple of weeks.
Any plans for Xbox?
Not at this time, but we'll never say no.